You're listening to a groundbreaking community stream.
Hi, this is your host Q, live and direct from the Psyche Studio, New Delhi. Welcome to our podcast where we sit down with creatives and creative business pioneers to discuss their journeys, challenges, and success. If you're listening to this podcast for the first time, consider subscribing. Also, check out our website. We are putting out one podcast every week and thrilled about what's to come in the next episodes. As always, we value the feedback of all the listeners, so please reach out to us with any comments or questions you may have. You can also shoot me a mail mentioned in the podcast description. For this episode, we have Jutta Jerlich, a lecturer and consultant at Vienna University of Technology. With a wealth of experience in a variety of disciplines, from engineers to designers, Jutta has a unique perspective on the importance of collaboration in building thriving teams and creating successful products. Whether she's running her course on collaboration and co-creation or helping with design sprints, Utah's approach is always centered around the power of a collaborative mindset to drive creativity and innovation. So, if you're looking to take your team or business to the next level, don't miss out on the insights and strategies that Utah has to offer. Hi, Utah. How's it going? How have you been?
I've been fine. Thank you so much for asking, Deepak. How about you?
I've been doing fine. I mean, this year has been going with the high energy and a lot of work around. So yeah, I think it's good. What's up with you? I mean, we had a chat, a couple of weeks back, and I mean, I it was definitely a very impactful conversation about things you've been doing and a value of collaboration you've been doing, and talk about that. What's happening?
Well, I've been very impressed by what you are doing. So I actually was just listening into the session you had with Sudhir Sharma, and it was very interesting to always find those elements in the stories of people. He said some very nice things, like people are always larger than their projects, right? I found that really, really inspiring. But yeah, this is collaboration and co-creation, right? The stories that
Yeah,
we can share, the experiences we collect, no?
yeah, awesome. I mean, I can see that. I mean, you are a person who've always believed in sharing your knowledge and been teaching a lot of people from a spectrum of different ages. I mean, let's just go a little back. When you started, maybe sharing your knowledge, started teaching. I mean, was that something you always wanted to do? Talk about things or maybe share your knowledge.
Yes, I don't know why I do that, but it needs reflection time. But maybe sometimes also the why doesn't really matter that much. Just finding that drive. But I was just talking with someone about that. It's actually more than 16 years ago now that program that I'm teaching now at the Technical University of Vienna has come into being, and it was quite some time to get it started even and accepted by the university, because yeah, it's somehow an odd program. It's not the typical one, and it was always about adding, yeah, the so-called soft skills. I don't really like that term because they're not soft. For me, they're actually the hard skills. That's how we work together. But to get that part, to be part of the curriculum, or to at least give people the chance to work on their projects, to have time for that. And I didn't know how important this would become over the years, so that there's really a space where people can find their creativity, sometimes even, and it's not just have space to be creative, but over the years, the curriculums and programs have become so tight that everything is just about acquiring knowledge and not really applying your knowledge and experiencing who you really are. And experiencing also who it is you can really work with well. What are those, profiles? How does this work across different disciplines? And this is what I always wanted to do. I wanted to bring people together from different walks of lives and perspectives and show them and, guide them, be there for them on the way to find ways to work together, even though you might be from a very different professional viewpoint. You, an architect, a designer, a IT person, a chemical engineer. There's so many different study focuses that we have. It has become so segmented that it's really important now to find a common voice again, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I second that, and again, that's again, as you mentioned in the beginning, that this is not something that everyone talks about, collaboration and co-creation. In fact, so do you think there's this still relatability? I think there's more relatability to this subject than maybe 16 years ago. I can only imagine. So what do you think, why do you think it's very important now than ever, where how to, collaborate and co-create in personal and even professional development?
I think it's somehow connected to these people are always larger than their projects. And if you put that into nature, if you have any topic, anything, and you just dissect it into parts, I think there's something missing. I think humans also think they know everything, and that's just not the case. I think we somehow lost humbleness and respect for what's around us, even our own bodies. There is a lot of knowledge already there existing, of course, in humanity, but maybe that's this much of what is really out there. And dissecting and separating things into different disciplines, it just makes it look like we are covering everything. But when you really have to collaborate with people from different areas, you find out that there is so much we don't know about each other. And actually, for me, the biggest insight myself of what it is that I'm trying to do in all my programs and with every team that I work with is to understand that actually we understand ourselves, so we can see ourselves through others. We are not, able to exist alone. It just doesn't work. We are people who exist because of others. Of course, that's where we come from, and that's where our biggest creations come from. When people work together on a common goal, on something they care for, not just in their mind, but from their hearts as well. So I think it's about integration in many, many different levels and dimensions.
And do you think that it is a little different with the creatives? Because again, I've been we all have been seeing that there's suddenly a wave of becoming an independent creator, doing everything independently, solopreneurs, things like that. How do you think that a value of collaboration is important in that case? Because again, they want to play just their own game, where maybe they want to make their own rules. What is your take on that subject?
Mm-hmm. Well, that would actually be a question for you, but I'm more like, where does this come from, I guess. But I think it's big organizations, corporations, they I really have to say this strongly, they don't really value creative power anymore. They feel that this can be just on a pressing a button, it can be there or not there, and that's just not the case. And I think that's why many people are just wanting to break free and be able to play with their own rules. And there's just more freedom needed everywhere, because creativity and innovation and new stuff, and integration just doesn't happen just like that. It's we cannot command it. There is no control we have over it, and we have to come back to our well-being as well, before something can happen. At least that's what happens to me. If I am supposed to be writing a piece of content or creating something, I need to be in the right state of mind. And nobody can just say, now give me 5 new ideas. And that's what's the daily life of creatives, right? You always have to translate something that is not existing yet into becoming a physical appearance, or somehow taking shape. And that needs a lot of energy that we need to be able to have to be able to create. And I'm really happy that this is happening, by the way, that a lot of people are recognizing that, hey, I can do that when I'm free, and I'm looking for ways of how I can do that in a sustainable way. And that's actually, I would say, the entrepreneurial side of my programs and what I'm teaching, is to give people the ability to understand their decisions, look at their pathways, and so that they can do both. They can be in that creative space, but also have the peace and quiet and the security to know that you will be able to sustain yourself in that way.
Yeah, I mean, let's do a deep dive about what you've been, teaching out there. Again, I looked up with the the collaboration subject you had shared, and I think you are also helping people understanding the complexities of collaboration. So I mean, how are you able to communicate that to a variety of people, maybe if they are creative or not, or business person, and how are you helping them, and maybe implementing those ideas through this technique? Would just want to know more about it.
Yeah, well, you hit the nail with it. It's really breaking down the complexity, and what has evolved and developed over those years of giving this program and working with teams is just like a journey or a roadmap, where you can say, okay, now we look at this topic from this viewpoint. So it's I would say taking different perspectives and looking at those ideas that you want to create into or shape into a product and service. And like that, we are able to grasp it in a better way, right? It's not like, oh, I don't know where to start, or what is my next step now. It just gives us ability to, I don't know how to say that exactly, but an ability to be in it with our full being, but at the same time also monitoring where we are, and being able to observe ourselves, and to have that reflection happening somehow at the same time that we are doing something, so maybe a little bit slower than what we normally would do, in a more conscious way. Maybe that's the word. So to really approach thing as a whole person, and from a dimension somehow beyond ourselves.
I think it's also a lot depends upon an individual. I mean, in that, do you think that it has, I mean, in order to having that space where one can collaborate and co-create a lot of your mindset also plays an important role, where again how do you fix that problem where maybe there's not enough open-mindedness about this space where of collaborating and creating a product. And let's just even talk about how we can use this approach in different industries and organizations.
You said not enough space. How do you mean that?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times, people are not just open-minded enough to, to go take that extra, go to that extra, take that extra space, and go to that extra mile in order to collaborate. Some people are, a lot of them are, pretty biased about, okay, this is how it should be done, where it's they try to automate a lot of things. What I mean,
Okay.
especially in in creative processes, a lot of times collaboration, iteration is something which plays a very important role. And sometimes with biases, with our cognitive biases, it never really goes anywhere, and creates a lot of hassle. So how do you think we can, with this, with the right collaborative approach, we can help, we can impose into the industries, and uh, uh make a process around that?
Mhm. Um, I want to come back again to what Sudhir said here. He was talking about his story about how he created the companies long back. And he said at the beginning it was like organic, right? You were just letting something grow. And then after the first time, when there was a new start for him, after that it was experience. So I think um, it's really about being very aware of the context you're in, because you were referring to different industries and the different people you're working with. So I feel, when you have someone who wants to automate stuff, you have to know your context very, very well. So you may be able to automate some things because you're doing always the same thing in the same context, but that's not really the reality anymore, I think. There's a lot of changing factors, and especially if your team members are constantly changing, you don't really have a team. You have maybe a group of people who are trying to work together, but you're not really having a team, an aligned team with a shared interest. And magic just happens when we really connect. And if you are working with people who are just trying to rush things, okay, you'll have some kind of an outcome, but definitely not the outcome that the potential of all the people involved would have. So you're just foregoing a very big proportion of quality or excellence in some way if you're rushing into things and you're trying to automate stuff without taking all the factors into consideration. And that's where the complexity comes in, I think, again, and where it leads me to speak about co-creation then. I mean, if you're creating something for a specific audience, if you're not the audience yourself, how do you know what that audience actually needs? So you have to co-create. And how do you create a process that, is not too perfectionistic again at the end, right? How many iterations do you allow, right? Where do you say this is good enough now, right? Is there a community coming into it? Yeah, who is actually the creator in the end?
Yeah,
And
I
how
mean,
do
that's like,
we create, right?
yeah, it's about asking the right questions a lot of times, and finding that those questions at the right places. And I mean, what do you think about, and again, how important do you think is an awareness about fostering this culture of collaboration is important in industries and people who are starting out there? Because a lot, again, we are living in a world now where the people are, I don't know if I should use the word solitude, because maybe a lot of people are not enjoying this isolation space of working, where collaboration can become difficult. And this is again, I can only talk about the creative people, because that's where I mostly work around. That's where I'm coming from. So, how do you think it is important to foster a culture of collaboration, and how do you think community comes into this game?
I think it's immensely important. And if you don't feel comfortable when collaborating with others, um, there is a lot of, let's say, failed projects or frustrations coming your way, because you can't really avoid that. And I guess as a solopreneur, we have to work in networks. So somehow it's you can't really avoid working with others. And I'm sure that anybody you ask will have an example for a difficult client he had to work with, right? I mean, this is also co-creation. You are creating something for someone, and everybody needs to be happy with it at some point, right? So if you don't have the ability to connect, to understand what it is that would make this collaboration, this cooperation, something everybody is happy with, then you can't just move forward. It's like a wall, right? And this reflects back, of course, on your reputation, on everything you do, and on your life mostly, right? You are the one who is trying to figure out, probably in your sleep, what's wrong with that and how you can improve this challenge that you have at hand, right? So it's also a lot about choosing the people, I think, that you can really work with. So it's thinking a lot about ourselves and saying, what are the values that I actually want to live? Who are those profiles of people that I can work with? Who are those clients that I can make happy with my very specific gifts and talents? So I think this is the biggest misconception of in my own life, to have to feel that we should be able to work with anybody. There's so many different kinds of people out there, and everybody is unique, and we have the choice to choose who we work with. And I think we should choose the people who we can have the biggest impact with together. So it has to align. We have to complement each other. And you need to take time to figure that out. I think that's the complexity at the beginning of any collaboration. And that's why I recommend everybody, if you find someone you really enjoy working with, and you have great results at the end, stick to that. Really grow that collaboration and partnership, because that's rare. If you encounter that, hold on to it. I mean, it's just like in your personal relationships. If you want to translate it into that, it's the same there. It's people. We're working together with other people, and everything that comes with.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, you made it sound pretty simple. I mean, okay, let's just talk about when, about building such teams. I remember from our conversation that that you mentioned about giving your energy. I mean, your energy is important, and you have to realize that, okay, to whom you would like to share that same energy. How do you identify this energy sharing in terms of understanding a scenario where we can imagine ourselves working together in terms of building a team? For example, I'm in a space where I'm building my design agency and expanding my team. How do you think that one can identify or talk about that directly, or maybe following a process in order to have like that nourishing team, which where ideas and creativity can thrive?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and there's no real recipe for it. What I can say is that, for me, it's always about doing like a pilot together, taking a small project and just seeing how it feels, checking it out. I mean, that's why hackathons, design sprints, events like this are so important, because you need to experience how it feels to work with someone. And it's something like an awareness process, right? The more you do that, the more you know what it is you're looking for, the more you become aware of what your own values are. Maybe in terms of how you want to work with someone, right? Someone with a calm voice, or a calm somehow appearance, so a whole way of talking to each other, even the voice, whatever comes across. And I think you especially find out how a person ticks is actually when something goes wrong, when emotions come up. And that's what I like to do, is kind of set the stage for something going wrong, um, intentionally, without maybe people knowing, and then seeing what comes out of that. It's because that's what we have to overcome at some point, right? And if you lose a partner, just imagine you are starting to work on large projects that are really important for you, for your design agency, and then that partnership breaks because the partner doesn't stick to what was agreed upon. And stuff like that has happened to me several times. So I once said that I'm an expert in business partnership failure because I've spent so many hours on it. And that's really the truth. You only find out when it happens. Where did you go wrong? Maybe you didn't listen to that small voice inside you that's saying, well, maybe this intention of that person is not as it looks.
Yeah, and do you think how do you think that in this process where maybe we sometimes don't have that wavelength in order to understand everything equally, a lot of times we are also the problem, in order to sometimes we try to impose a lot of things to the other person. How to, I mean, uh, do you think that self-awareness also plays some role in it? Because again, this is a lot on a philosophical level I'm talking about. But how do you think that constantly you keep a check that, okay, is I'm not sure if I'm the problem.
Yeah, of course, it's always us being the problem first, right? So the self-awareness is where we are starting, because that's what we can, let's say, it's not the word control again, but I mean, we cannot do anything about changing other people's lives. The only thing we can do is about ourselves, right? So becoming self-aware is the point here. But again, you need other people to become more self-aware as well, right? So you need that mirror of people who are giving you feedback in an unconditional way, and that's really the rare currency. That is really hard to get out there. So you have to find a circle of people where you really have a trusted foundation that you can talk about these things. So it's really picking up topics that nobody would talk about.
Yeah, and you again, you just talked about working in a space where design sprints and hackathons. I mean, how to create a nurturing system in that space where you have to create something in a limited period of time, and especially into the creative world where you have to constantly ideate. There are some projects where you have to spend time just putting out there your ideas and not just thinking too much, because that's where the real ideas come from. So how to, maybe you can give us some bits about how to create that system where people are not scared enough, or maybe are not doubtful enough about sharing their ideas out there,
Mhm. Well,
especially with
maybe
the design sprints. Yeah.
yeah, maybe a way you can think about this is seeing your ideas as separate entities. It's not like something that belongs to us or that is connected to our egos, like our ideas, right? Our babies. You have to like it because it's so beautiful. I made it, kind of like detaching ourselves from that, and just letting ideas flow, and taking any criticism or any feedback that comes back just as an input in terms of co-creation, and getting into that flow somehow, I think. And if people are able to accept that, if you have other people around you who can work in that way, putting the ego aside, and not really looking for confirmation of how good we are, if that can be taken out of the equation, things will happen in a different way. You will really feel it. And I think it's about experiencing this once. If you know how that feels and what effect it has on on how we are creating, time somehow goes away. I don't know, this you are really in a space that is who we truly are. I think it's somehow, really experiencing and being in the moment and putting everything we have on the table. And I just love that feeling. I'm really like an addict on it. And of course, in hackathon design sprints where you have a limited amount of time, you can feel that because it needs to happen to progress in any kind of idea development. But because of the time pressure, of course, it's also possible that something really collapses and that you have big arguments, and some people maybe can't take that pressure or can't open up in that short amount of time in that way. So it's like you said, it's we are always coming back to a complexity of emotions and things that are happening based on the activities that we are involved in, and this is hard to understand, and that's why it needs experience. So for anyone who is starting as a creative designer who is new to this, it's really about collecting experience, and as soon as you get into it, the more you learn, the better you will be able to understand yourself and that process that is happening. And the earlier you'll also be able to say, no, in this context I don't want to work. This is it doesn't feel well, and I am mature enough to listen to that feeling that comes from inside saying, well, this is not the space for me right now here. And not to feel bad about it again afterwards. Sometimes we feel like we are missing out afterwards, right? If we have said no to something. At least that's how, I learned to interpret myself. I always wanted to know the why about something, but why will it not work, but sometimes the universe is saving us from something, and our inner voice is kind of that sign for it. So we should just be happy and following that. Maybe we are avoiding an accident. We are avoiding a business partnership failure because we are not stepping into something. So we need to just trust ourselves, and learn to trust others as well, who in exchange also open up just in the same way. So it's a give and take. It has to be a two-way street.
I mean, again, in this process, when we are trying to add, business to this conversation, where we've talked about emotions and self awareness. When we are adding business to this conversation, it becomes a whole different game. Where people where stakeholders are involved. A lot of people, a lot of decision makers in this space. How do you think we can, we can have this collaborative approach to help push the push our ideas to build products, for example?
I think we just have to set the stage. You as a creative designer, you have to set the space for those clients you work with and say, this is how I want to go through this creation process together. Here's how we'll start. Here's the open space. Here's where I'm taking the input from you. Here's the maximum of, I don't know, 3 to 5 iterations we will go through. Here's the time in between for you to really let it sink in as well. Here's how I want you to give me the feedback. So it's really about defining the process of how you can work with others and what it is you need as an input in this creation process.
All right, Yuta. I mean, usually I'm having a lot of conversation with creative directors, people in creative business, talking about design. I mean, what we've been talking about is a little deeper. I mean, I usually haven't talked about such topic, and I'm definitely enjoying it. How do I mean, what do you think that collaboration has to do with learning? You know. And how do you think we, I mean, again, a lot of young people are and at the stage where they are, you know or people in their 20s, they are impatient about a lot of things, where they don't really value collaboration, and they want to do things on their in their own rules. And how do you find that balance, that okay, following your rules and at the same time valuing, or fostering collaboration? What should be the mindset around that?
I think you said it at the beginning. It's all about learning, right? We have to learn about ourselves and learn about others we want to collaborate with. And I get it. I'm also an impatient person. If things don't move, we are kind of like, oh, it feels awkward. I want to go faster here. But maybe that's exactly what it is. If you find people that really gel with you, where you're like, it flows and it goes fast and you reach somewhere and you don't know where this has come from anymore. You're kind of like, you're working with someone and it's not awkward when it's silent. Something is happening in the inside our minds and hearts, and something emerges that comes from really everybody that is sitting there around that table, or whatever it is you are creating, and you are letting it happen. And I think most people, or many people, have not even experienced that kind of a feeling, so they don't recognize it. And it's really hard if you have to keep on pushing constantly, right? If everything feels like really hard and that nothing moves if you don't push. But that's not really that ideal situation that I wish everyone to be able to experience in their lives as early as possible, because that's like a game changer, as we would say, right? That's really making a difference in your life if you understand that. And that's why education is so important, because that's actually what a teacher, or someone as being active as a mentor should show how you set the stage and how you allow yourself to open up for such kind of an experience.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about setting the stage, what do you really mean about that?
Well, it's all about what I said before, right? It's like, what do I need to put all my creativity on the stage?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you have a client and they say, this is what I need, I need you to create me my whole brand logo and all these kind of things. So what do you need to be able to create that for someone? Or let's take a bigger thing to show the complexity. Really nice project from my last program. It's a team that came together around the idea of cardboard boxes. We have so many cardboard boxes because a lot of stuff is being sent to our houses these days. And I have always been a collector, and I've been fighting with people so my cardboard boxes would not be thrown away, because they're nice, beautiful, perfect cardboard boxes. Why should I throw them away? They need to be reused. Or you can take anything else. You can take glass bottles. Why do I have to throw away a glass bottle that has beautifully been made and it's serving its purpose? Anyway, so this team, you can see that I'm passionate about the topic, wanted to find out, how can we create a movement, a product, a service around people who want to share their cardboard boxes, so you don't have to buy new ones when you move, or you need to pack something to send it to someone. And so how do you set that stage? How do you work together with other people? How do you make sure you really have the same ideas? Maybe there is someone in your team who is like, I want to commercialize everything, and the other person wants to create a community around it with no money involved. Where does the money then come from? Where do you, how do you fund something? How do you make it sustainable, so that an initiative that is not just depending on the goodwill of people can grow and can reach a lot of people and can, make and create that impact that this team had in mind? So it's all about setting a work environment where people feel comfortable. So it goes all the way to the point of which tool are we using to communicate, right? And it's not like you have a standard answer for that, because tools that we use to communicate need to fit into our everyday life. So if you're already using a specific tool for that, it's best, of course, to find a tool that everybody in your team, and maybe you are lucky and everyone has the same chat or whatever kind of messenger that you can do that through. And where do you share files? How do you work on something collaboratively so that everyone has access to it? To use a Miro board, to use something else. And when do you meet? The biggest problem, people always tell me, it's really hard to find time to work together in the team. And I'm like, well, that's the big problem everyone has these days. It's like we have to cut out things. We don't have time anymore. There's so much technology out there stealing our time. TVs, YouTube channels, all kinds of things. And actually, we are creating content now for distracting more people from maybe what they should be doing instead, right? So there is a lot of topics that you have to set with that team that you want to work with, so that it is efficient, that it's not just efficient. Maybe sometimes it's about celebrating a win digitally because you can't be in the same space. When can you be in the same space and do stuff together? Using the internet as our global connector. I mean, we have opportunities now to work together, sitting in a completely different continent, like we are doing now. But how do we do that? So it's really using all of the potential that we have, right? I mean, we are having a conversation now that maybe normally you would not have, only after you've known each other for quite a while, because we are touching topics that no one else touches. So how do you do that? How do you speak about the good and the bad stuff? That was actually a very nice part of my end presentations of my teams, where they're like, we were able to speak about the good and the bad stuff. So how do you speak about the bad stuff? That's one of the important rules. In collaboration, you have to speak about that before the bad stuff happens, because when it happens, it's too late.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair, Yuta. I mean, carrying forward what you just mentioned, I think I would like to. I mean, this is more more like a personal question for me. The problem, or this is one of that thing that I've been thinking about. While creating a fully remote team, while creating a creative business, which is fully remote. How do you think that you maybe bridge the gap of that space where maybe in order to thrive creativity and innovation? How do you think should be my approach to go forward with a creative business which is fully remote? Because again, that's the right now, I mean, we post pandemic, we are definitely in a situation where we respect our time more. I mean, I'm definitely generalizing in a lot of ways, where people have realized the value of their time, and they want to do what they really enjoy doing. So a lot of really nice creatives would like to work remotely. And how do you think I should have that approach as a design leader in my company, in order to have like a nurturing space in terms of working remotely?
I would really recommend everybody, and especially since I care for the success of your digital agency, creative agency, that you get to know the people you want to work with. So even though we are not in the same space, it's maybe about, I don't know, cooking together, spending time together without talking about projects, getting to know the lives of the people that you are considering to work with. How does it fit into it? Ask questions that other people don't ask. Just treat it as if these people would be close to you. You would also go for coffee. You would have dinner together, right? You would maybe do a project together first, just like I've said already, right? do like a, I don't know, maybe like an internship. I spoke to another person through that mentorship, where we also got to know each other, right? The ADP list, and he's doing actually the same thing as you do. And he said, "Well, it's two of us. There's two people who are creating that agency, but they're already taken in an intern." And that's the first time when I learned that in India, sometimes you have to pay for an internship. So putting yourself into situations where you yourself are sharing what you have learned and getting input from these interns or young people to understand them as well, right? So I think we are bridging gaps somehow constantly, trying to understand those contexts that people are really in, because that's I think the biggest danger when we work digitally, to not understand the real life that is actually behind those Zoom rooms or whatever tool you're using. What is the realities in our everyday life? And if we know that people have families, people have other kind of issues, what happens if you're late to a meeting? What happens if you're sick? What happens to the project when this happens, right? If somebody's not delivering, somebody's not showing up at all, you can't even reach the person, what's happening, power cut, then if all those realities that maybe you don't think about, right? That's creating that real understanding for the person on the other side.
Yeah.
And having to bridge this between countries, it's even more, right? Because we have all our cultures, our backgrounds that we have grown up in, and you have a completely different one. And because we are not in the same space, we don't even realize the differences. So there is just a lot to speak about, and that's why I always recommend to take a pilot project over a longer period of time and get to know each other before you enter into a more definitive collaboration and partnership, or before you hire someone as well.
Yeah, again, I mean, it's. I think a lot of times the answer and the solution about things and is basically in your is in front of you, right? And you tend to you pretend to ignore that fact. And I think that's what is really important in order to having that nurturing system, that you should talk about things which needs to be talked about. All right, Yuta. I mean, it was a wonderful conversation about collaboration and how what should be our approach in around the creative space. How can people learn more about you and what you were talking?
Well, the best thing is just to Google or to just follow the links that we will put there together. Um, I hope we can do more together. We spoke about some things where I am,
Yeah,
the person who has to become active. So I'm looking forward to join in one of your Saturday sessions.
yeah,
But that's the reality on my side. I am a very positive person, so I'm always trying to do more than it's actually possible. I'm trying to stretch time. Yeah, that's another point actually. To create routines of where you have those touch points with people. And yeah, I hope that maybe we can continue the conversation. We've been very philosophical, like you said, so maybe we can become more concrete and just pick out certain topics and speak about that. So I'm very happy to continue the conversation.
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, I definitely love the idea. I mean, I still have to, talk a lot about the server that, I haven't been talking about it on the podcast, because it's still growing. It's new. A lot of things, we are trying to do. But yeah, we'd love to have you there where you're talking about, collaboration and entrepreneurship and collaboration in design. All right, Yuda, it was wonderful to have you. It was amazing, it was an amazing conversation about, co-creation, things around that, your mindset. I hope you had a good time.
I did. Thank you very, very much for inviting me. I'm always enjoying to talk to you, and I hope all of our listeners had the same feeling of connection. Yeah, talking about something that matters.